Prior to today's vote, I spoke with Democratic Congressman Dan Goldman of New York about the House Republican impeachment inquiry into President Biden. Here's our conversation. Joining us now from Capitol Hill is New York Democratic Congressman Dan Goldman. Congressman, thanks for taking the time. What do you make of the House Republicans moving pretty quickly on this inquiry and, as Scott just reported, moving maybe quickly to articles of impeachment? What does that say about the House Republicans, and what's the Democrats' response?
That the House Republicans are essentially an arm of Donald Trump's election campaign. They are doing this based on complete fiction. There are no facts to support any allegations of wrongdoing by President Biden, any connections to anything related to Hunter Biden. And they have done this investigation, Bob, for 12 months already. They have gathered well over 100,000 documents. They have interviewed and under oath 16 witnesses, including 10 government witnesses provided by the Biden administration. And yet they found no evidence to connect Joe Biden to wrongdoing. The best they can come up with is this bogus Burisma allegation that was debunked in the first impeachment in 2019, has been debunked ever since, and that was a scenario that actually hurt Hunter Biden's business interests by Joe Biden taking action. So there's nothing here, and it's just a political charade.
Congressman, you've been critical of some Republicans not showing up for their congressional depositions or hearings. Do you support Hunter Biden's position that he's not going to sit for a deposition with these House Republicans?
I do, and I do based on the fact that the House Republicans have released only 2 transcripts of dozens of transcribed interviews they have done as part of this investigation. And the reason for that is that they continue to mischaracterize what goes on in those depositions. I have sat in them, and I have seen what they've said. I have then been bewildered by their gaslighting and misrepresentations, and there's no question that Hunter Biden sees that too, especially in the deposition of Devon Archer. Hunter Biden was here today ready to testify to the American people in an open and transparent way under oath and to answer any questions the Republicans had. They refused to accept his testimony, and yet we are about to go on the House floor and vote on an impeachment inquiry that they say they need because they need more evidence. The irony of rejecting evidence this morning and voting because you need more evidence this afternoon should not be lost on anyone.
You say the Republicans are moving in a direction that's not supported by the American people, that's not supported by evidence, but what are Democrats going to do politically in Congress to help President Biden? Because regardless of your complaints about this process, it's moving forward, and it could be catching the attention of millions of Americans who might not be paying that close of attention to all of this.
Yeah, I hope they do pay attention. I hope more and more Americans pay attention to this sham impeachment investigation, which Republicans have admitted is done only at the behest of Donald Trump and only to assist Donald Trump's campaign. Americans should be watching that the Republicans are focusing on this bogus impeachment investigation rather than on any meaningful legislation that would actually help the American people. They have done nothing in 12 months to help American people lower prices, find housing, curb gun violence, deal with the climate crisis, you name it. They have done nothing. And to distract from their ineptitude and incompetence, they are now moving forward with a bogus impeachment inquiry. And I'm confident that the American people will see right through it, just like the voters in the 18 Biden districts see right through it, according to polling earlier this week, which is very unequivocal that they do not want the Republicans to go forward with this. So I hope this becomes an election year issue.
Speaking of legislation, where do things stand in terms of a possible deal with the Republicans on some kind of border legislation that's coupled with funding for Ukraine? Is that ever going to happen, or are they going to need to be standalone at the end of the day?
I certainly hope it happens. It is truly remarkable that the Republican Party, the party of Ronald Reagan, would be abdicating the United States' role as the beacon of democracy around the world and would withdraw support for Ukraine, a democracy, a fledgling democracy, fighting an illegal invasion by a Russian dictator who has made it clear he will continue to pursue illegal invasions in other democratic states. And that to imagine that they would try to extort the Democratic Party by including extreme border policy changes in order to get any funding for Ukraine and to support democracy around the world is startling. It is baffling to me. Ukraine is running out of money. By the end of this month, they will be in big trouble. And if we do not pass legislation to help Ukraine, Vladimir Putin will win. And that will hang over every single Republican for the rest of time.
And where do you believe House Democrats want to go on the border? It's a contentious issue across party lines and within the party.
Absolutely. And I think there are many who understand and who believe, including myself, that the situation at the border is untenable and we need to fix it. The problem is the way the Republicans want to fix it is not only xenophobic and anti-immigrant, it's also ineffective. And so it is both extreme and useless to actually deal with the issues that are happening at the border. But we want to fix it. We would like to get in a room with meaningful bipartisan conversations, good faith negotiations to come up with proper, effective, result-oriented solutions. But the Republicans are not interested in actual effective solutions. They are just interested in their extreme agenda to eliminate immigration, to keep foreigners out of this country. And this is a country that is built on immigrants. We need more immigration for our economy and to fill jobs that are open around the country. And we should be welcoming immigrants in an orderly process, not trying to keep them out.
Congressman Dan Goldman of New York, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Bob.